This is the first impression form filled in for Edusharp. There were a bunch of websites doing psychometric testing of employees or students to judge their character. The first section, we see that they are in an industry of interest to us, that they have sufficient technology, that they're revenue earning. These are good things. The fact that they wanted almost $1 million was outside our parameters. We see a section on positives and negatives. Their CEO's high salary was a negative to us. Questions we would have, or some deeper thoughts, was that online education market in India was getting increasingly crowded, but we saw that companies that focused in one area did better, and that's what they seem to be doing, which is a good sign. I assess this as 7 on 10 in September last year. Baby Destination was and is a website for mothers that provides them with relevant information. We actually ended up investing in this company, and at the time while we were doing our diligence, I created this competitive landscape analysis. I first looked at the industry, the size of the industry, factors related to the industry in India, such as there being a big demographic to address. The second section, I looked at competition. For example, with babycenter.com, I saw that their website had a very clear flow and organization to it, which is very helpful and user-friendly. With Tiny Step, for example, I learned that they had 500,000 monthly active users and had gotten funding at a valuation of $5 million just the year before. Continuing our look at Baby Destination's CLA, in this page we see more research and analysis of competition. Babychakra.com, for example, you had a section to book services such as rent car seats, book a pediatrician. In some of the other competitors, and including Babychakra, in fact, I saw bad web design in general. Things like photos of Caucasian people instead of Indian people being used. Photos blurred all the time in parenting.com. Continuing with the CLA, on this last page, I addressed the most important question maybe of how Baby Destination should compete given the nature of the industry and competition that we've learned about. I felt that the industry had become very crowded in India recently, and this is not even considering global players such as WebMD. One way for them to stand out was to have several different regional languages. Another would be to build on their momentum with community. My research showed that the trend for digital payments was extremely strong. By the year 2020, 90% of smartphone users will have made a mobile payment, and peer-to-peer payments would have crossed $200 billion. Comparable companies to MyPoolin, Venmo had to be the most important case. And what I found here was that it had done well, amongst other reasons, was because it was so easy to use and mobile friendly, and that also importantly it had a strong social element to it. Things like a social feed that showed transactions you had made. WeChat Pay was another essential case to look at. The company's Red Envelopes product was met with just astounding success. I mean, it took its user base from 30 million to 100 million within a month's time. and it crossed the user base of Alipay, which was very much the incumbent digital payments product in China at the time. It was important to know what the mobile device makers were doing, as it affected not just the platform where the app would work, but also it was a source of competition. So we learned that all three, Apple, Google, and Samsung, had integrated payment systems through their hardware, and these relied on what is known as the near field communication standard. It was interesting to see how retailers and banks were trying to get in on the act and fight back. Currency was the effort made by the biggest retailers in the US, and they did not have the hardware for NFC in their stores, meaning that Apple Pay wouldn't work. Instead, they had developed their own system using QR codes. Clear Exchange was an app that the US banks launched to enable seamless bank account to bank account transfer, which meant they were fighting clearly against PayPal. Overall, I think the research showed us that the peer-to-peer payments model was a success in country after country, as long as it was done right, as long as it had social features and was customized to behaviors and use cases pertinent to that locality. We saw what the mobile phone makers were doing, what the banks were doing. Also, other players such as Amazon Payments, Facebook, WhatsApp, what were their plans for payments in the future? So it was very insightful going forward with our decision to invest or not into MyPoolin. It was interesting to learn about some of the production challenges that graphene encountered. When platinum or nickel were exposed to ethylene or benzene at high temperatures, this would create toxic chemicals. Another problem was that when graphene layers were manifested on a metal board and you had to remove each layer, that would end up damaging the graphene. A breakthrough finally happened in 2012 when an analysis of graphene's insides showed how to separate them from the metallic substrate without damaging it. I learned about the prices that graphene was available at globally. For example, a solution of 250 ml of graphene oxide was for sale at €100. Graphene flakes in solid form was very expensive because of the way it has to be mechanically exfoliated. And that's several $1,000s per flake. And there's another method known as chemical vapor deposition. So it was interesting for me to know about all these things when talking to Log9 and advising them furthermore. With respect to commercialization, I think an interesting example I found was about how carbon fiber, at first it was very slowly disseminated, didn't have much success. And then it quickly, within 8 years, reached 4,600 tons per annum of production. And this was after there was a significant increase in patent filings. So that kind of showed us what might happen with the graphene market. When building an air purifier, it was essential to know what pollutants you were trying to filter out in the first place. My research showed that PM 2.5 was the main pollutant, and what exactly this was. That carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide were sources from vehicle emissions, very important in a country like India. And also there was ozone and sulfur dioxide, lesser known sources but also prevalent and that needed to be addressed by the air purifier. It was interesting to learn that graphene had not made any great inroads into air purification, forms of functionalized graphene in aerogel form were adept at absorbing indoor pollutants such as formaldehyde or ammonia, but there was nothing saying that it was more effective overall versus HEPA filtration. And that was something that Log9 had to keep in mind going forward. Knowing the size of India's air purification market was essential for us to compare different potential markets and make the best choice for Log9's resources going forward. The Indian market was supposed to grow at a high rate, but still only be a very tiny fraction of the global market. So with TripShelf's website, I felt on a general note that some web pages were going to a completely different and what seemed like an older web design, such as FAQ, sitemap, contact us. So I brought this to their attention. I used the product itself, trying to book a mini Goa getaway. And when I did that, I got two emails instead of one. One was telling me about signing up to TripShelf, and the other was telling me about the tour that I had inquired about. I felt one email would just make life easier for me. Also, the email itself was bland. I, in regard to this, got a couple of calls from TripShelf and the tour operator the next day, and it was disappointing that nothing could be worked out. The advertisement on their website was very different from what was actually available. In terms of the messenger link, it got my phone number and email, the AI on it, but it could not get my departure dates and therefore couldn't suggest accurately for what I was looking for. So this is my report, the first page of it on Hub for Tech after using their website. Overall, I felt one of the issues was that the website needed to be more complete. There was a lot of tags and headers which when clicked on would not have content. As regards the home page, I felt it was very crowded, talking a lot about the different things they offered. I felt it should be much cleaner and easier for someone to navigate. Examples of web design I pointed out to them was, for example, when I hovered from one pane to another in a certain section, which is products for learners, the movement of it was very abrupt. It was just poor web design which needed to be worked on. They kept also advertising a jobs listings product alongside their core assessments platform, and I thought there was no need for this, and it actually required bigger change in their entire business, not just the website and the product. Also, for some of their products, actually for all of them, they charged different amounts in US dollars and in rupees. So someone paying in dollars would be paying more, which was obviously something that would not go down well with consumers. Continuing my study of HubForTech's product, I found more examples of poor web design. For example, in a certain path, home, soft and behavioral skills, one-to-one expert help, the action buttons on the top of the page I found were not evenly spaced and were of different colors, but they use the same color twice for different functions, which is not making the best use of colors. The profile of the expert was simply the first review of the user. It was not a profile done by HubForTech or perhaps submitted by the expert. So that's not good. I also felt the reviews, a lot of them just had given 4 and 4 stars, were fake. I mean, they had the same length in characters. In some of them, the reviewer refers to his own name. So that was very suspicious. I also offered improvements to English wherever I saw fit. For example, skill upgrade should be skill upgradation. Punctuation was wrong. And I think these comments helped Hub4Tech improve their website.